The first thing I remember isn't my mother's face, because she never got to see mine. She died giving me life, hemorrhaging, on an operating table while my father held her hand and whispered promises she'd never hear. And while he wept in the hallway, my stepmother, Claire, made a decision. She wrapped me in a thin hospital towel, no blanket, no name tag, no goodbye, and carried me out the back exit of St. Mary's Hospital. It was raining that night, cold November, the kind of rain that feels like the sky is mourning. She walked past the ER ambulances, past the smoking nurses, past the security guard who nodded at her like she belonged. Then she stopped at a green metal dumpster behind the hospital, overflowing with soiled linens, broken and IV bags, and food waste. She didn't hesitate. She lifted the lid, dropped me in, and walked away without looking back. I know this is not from memory, but from the security footage I bought 28 years later. The timestamp 3:17 a.m. Her heels clicking on wet pavement. My first cry, muffled by trash. Her hand gloved in leather, closing the lid like she was sealing a box of garbage. And she was right. To her, I was garbage. The unwanted child of the woman who stole her husband's heart. The living proof that her marriage was a lie. The mistake she could finally erase. But here's what she didn't count on. Someone heard me. The woman who chose me. Her name was Evelyn, a homeless veteran, 62, sleeping under the hospital loading dock to stay dry. She'd lost her own son in Iraq, said the silence after his death was louder than any bomb. That night, she heard a sound she hadn't heard in years. A baby crying in the dark. She pulled me out of that bin, soaked, shivering, lips blue, wrapped me in her army coat, walked 12 blocks in the rain to the nearest fire station. They called CPS. CPS called foster care. Foster care said no room, but Evelyn stood there dripping wet and said, "Then I'll take her. I've got a roof and a heart." They laughed. She didn't have a roof or just a tent under the bridge, but she had something better. Stubborn love. The judge, moved by her plea, granted temporary guardianship. And Evelyn? She never gave me back. She named me Maya, Sanskrit for illusion. Because the world thinks you're nothing, she'd say, rocking me in a second-hand chair. But you're everything. We lived in a shelters, then a converted van, then a tiny apartment above a laundromat. She worked 3 jobs, dishwasher, street cleaner, overnight security. Always came home smelling like bleach and rain. But every night she read to me from library books, torn pages taped together. Education, she'd say, is the one thing they can't throw away. I believed her. Rise from waste. I was 8 when I realized we were poor. Not no new shoes poor, but choose between heat and dinner poor. Wash your uniform in the sink so it's clean for school poor. But Evelyn never let me feel shame. When kids mocked my thrift store coat, she taught me to say, "This coat kept me warm while your daddy's lice kept you cold." When teachers assumed I'd fail, she sat with me every night, helping with math she barely understood. "And you're smarter than all of them," she'd say. "Now prove it." I did. I graduated high school valedictorian. Got a full ride to NYU on a scholarship for resilient youth. The night before I left, Evelyn handed me a shoebox. Inside, $3,700 in crumpled bills, every tip, every extra shift, every can she'd recycled for years. "Don't spend it," she said. "Invest it. Turn waste into worth." The poor shasteda bahi fwadobrist dedio. I cried so hard I couldn't speak. At NYU, I studied sustainable business, not because it was trendy, but because I knew what it meant to be discarded. My thesis? From landfill to legacy, how waste can build wealth. I turned it into a startup. EcoVessel Inc. by a company that made compostable packaging from food waste. Investors laughed. "Who pays for trash?" they said. But I remembered the dumpster, the smell, the cold, the silence. I built a prototype in my dorm, sold it to a local cafe, then a grocery chain, then Whole Foods. By 30, I was on the cover of Forbes. Maya Reyes, the billionaire who turned trash into treasure. The fact. Evelyn watched the interview from her new apartment, paid for by me. Though she insisted on cleaning it herself, she never asked for anything. Just said, "You rose, baby, and you didn't let the bin define you." The call. I was in my Manhattan penthouse, reviewing Q3 earnings when my assistant buzzed in. "Maya, there's a Claire Whitmore on line 1. She says, she's your stepmother." My pen froze mid-signature. Claire Whitmore. The name hadn't crossed my lips in 25 years. I almost hung up. But something, curiosity, closure, made me press accept. Her voice was trembling, polished, desperate. "Maya, thank God. We've looked everywhere for you. Your father. He's dying. He wants to see you, to apologize. I said nothing. We thought you died that night. We mourned you, but when we heard you were alive. You didn't mourn me, I said, voice calm as ice. You threw me away. A pause, then tears. I was young, grieving. I didn't know what I was doing. You knew exactly what you were doing, I said. You chose to erase me. Oh, please, she sobbed. Yeah, we'll give you anything. The house, stocks, just come home. Yeah. I leaned back, looked out at the skyline, the city I'd conquered. Tell me, Claire, does the dumpster behind St. Mary's still smell like regret? She gasped. I hung up. The investigation. I didn't act out of rage. I acted out of strategy. I hired a private investigator. Within 48 hours, I had everything. Whitmore Plastics, their family business, was drowning. They still made single-use plastic containers in a world that banned them. Their biggest client, Freshmart, was switching to sustainable packaging. My company, EcoVessel, was Freshmart's top choice. But the real gold? They owed $12 million in debt, mostly to a private equity firm called Vanta Capital. I made a call, not as Maya Reyes' CEO, but as Moshe Reyes, a silent investor. I bought their debt. All of it, for 30 cents on the dollar. Then I waited. The fall, Freshmart announced their switch to EcoVessel. Whitmore Plastics stock plummeted. 2 days later, Vanta Capital called Claire. Your loan is due. In full, today. She begged for time. They refused. They seized the factory. The mansion. The cars. Even the family portraits. I watched it all from my office live feeds, news clips, social media meltdowns. Then came the final blow. My HR department called. A woman named Lila Whitmore applied for the night janitor position. Says she has no other options. Lila, my half-sister. The girl who at 10 told me, you're not real family. You're just the mistake. I approved her hire. The first night she worked, I walked the halls late, found her mopping the lobby, head down, hair dull, hands raw. She looked up. Her eyes widened. Maya, I didn't know you worked here. I own here, I said. She dropped the mop. I'm sorry, she whispered. For everything. I didn't hug her. Didn't forgive her, but I handed her a business card. Oh, clean floors, I said. It's honest work. Unlike your mother's. The letters. My father sent letters. Dozens. Handwritten. Desperate. I didn't know she left you. I swear. I searched for years. Please let me see you before I die. I read them all. Then I burned them in my fireplace. Not out of cruelty, but because some wounds don't heal with words. I sent one reply, typed, formal, final. Mr. Whitmore, you let your wife discard your daughter like trash. Now live with what's left. Maya Reyes. The legacy. Evelyn passed last spring peacefully in her sleep at 90. She left me one thing. A small wooden box. Inside, my first tooth, my NYU acceptance letter, a photo of us at my graduation, and a note. You were never waste. You were my miracle. I buried her in a quiet cemetery by the sea. On her headstone I engraved Evelyn Marie Carter. She chose love when the world chose trash. And at the base, a single white rose. And my business card. Maya Reyes, CEO. From waste, I rose. Final words. People ask me if I regret not forgiving them. If I sleep at night knowing I destroyed a family. I tell them, I sleep like a queen. Because forgiveness is an ode to those who discard you. Survival is, success is, silence is. And sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't screaming. It's thriving. It's building an empire from the very thing they tried to bury you in. So if you're out there, abandoned, erased, told you're nothing, remember this. You are not what they threw away. You are what rose from it. And no dumpster, no lie, no bloodline can take that from you. Like the video, if abandoned, kids deserve justice. Comment from trash to throne if you're Team Maya.